All right, okay, so Austin Davis, tell us a little bit about yourself,
Hello. Well, my name is Austin, and I'm a poet. I am a student at ASU. This is my last semester. I'm going to be hopefully graduating if I pass my classes. I run AZ Hugs for the Houseless, which is Arizona Jews for Justice's homeless outreach program, and I'm the author of Lotus and the Apocalypse, which just came out today, which is super exciting. Also newly whiskey connoisseur, I guess, because we're drinking these beautiful apocalypses, made famous by Bobby Casson and Shayla, so yeah. So I wrote Lotus and the Apocalypse over the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I was struggling really heavily with my OCD and my Tourette syndrome and depression, and it was just a really scary time for me, and I just wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating very much, I was, self-medicating with various drugs, and it just, for me at least, it kind of felt like when you're climbing up a mountain, and you're getting really exhausted, and you know that if you just keep climbing, eventually you get to a place where you can rest with your mental health, but for me it just got too tiring, and I just kind of let go, and I was free-falling for a little bit, and writing is what really brought me back and helped me reach my arm out and grab a rock, and that's what writing this book really felt like. Originally, I wasn't intending for it to be a poetry novella that told this story about the last day on Earth, but it kind of just happened that way, I was writing these poems, and it just started to form this narrative, and I wrote this poem called Lotus and Honesty, and that was the first Lotus poem, and after I wrote that one, I was like, oh God, all these poems are Lotus poems, and then, the fun began of just arranging them all and tweaking every line, and, it was very therapeutic, writing this book was medicine for me, and I'm really grateful I had the opportunity to do so. So, it really centers around the question of how would you feel if today was your last day on Earth? What would you feel guilty for? What would you miss? What memories would make you feel warm inside, and what would feel like the opposite, and that was kind of the inspiration behind it, but Lotus and the Apocalypse, it's a poetry novella that tells the story of the last day on Earth for this character named Lotus as, they try to figure out what the point of life is before it's too late, through meditations on love and loss and addiction, mental health, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah. Over the last 2 years, it's just been a very uncertain and scary time for the whole world. And with this book, I really just hope to show people that they're not alone, and that, I've experienced some pretty scary stuff, and you probably have too, but we can get through it together,
Yeah.
And that's what the book's about. That's what Lotus is all about, is, we don't have to be perfect, we're not perfect, but it's about being honest about your faults and the parts of yourself that you want to change, and using that as a place to grow from as, an independent person and collectively. So, that's the goal with it, I guess. So I started writing when I was like 5, 6, 7, and not poetry, just short stories and stuff. And when I got to junior high, I took a creative writing class, and at that point I was struggling with my OCD as a kid, and I felt kind of isolated, and I didn't really understand what I was feeling. And for me and for a lot of others who struggle with OCD, it's all about fear. It's, for me at least, I think of it as something separate than myself. It's this voice that's telling me that if I don't do this compulsion, something really bad's gonna happen to either someone I love, to myself, to the community around me, and it's just fucking terrifying. So for me, I found poetry during that time, Neil Hilborn's poem about OCD was one of the first slam poems that I heard when I was a kid, and that just showed me that, poetry can be contemporary, it can be alive and vibrant, it doesn't have to be this, old person thing, because all the poets we were reading were, from the 1800s or whatever. They're awesome, but I just didn't really vibe with it when I was 12 or whatever. So that's really how I got into it, and I just started reading more and more. I was ferociously reading whatever I could, and to me, poetry's always felt like a certain type of magic, and eventually, around 12, 13, I got to the point where I was like, okay, I want to make some magic, This poem has affected me, and I want to write something that affects someone else. So I just started writing really crappy poems every single day, and then eventually I started to learn more about the craft, and about myself and how I can kind of integrate narrative storytelling with poetry, and I just fell in love with the form, A book that I really, really enjoyed, I think I read it maybe my first or second year of college, was American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin by Terrence Hayes, and I was just blown away by the book, and I started to see that poetry can also be political, and it can help people, enact social change, and I was like, okay, this is new to me, but it's awesome, and I want to give it a shot, so that's when I started trying to, write more about, social issues that I felt really strongly about, and I think that book was really instrumental in getting me to that place. And then I started doing work with the homeless, and I started writing poems about my experiences out there and trying to bridge the two, I guess. For me, the big goal is just to bridge art and activism in a way that enacts social change in some way, or at least helps or pushes it forward in just a little bit, so that's the goal. I got an internship with Arizona Jews for Justice 3 years ago, something like that, and Eddie Chavez Calderon, he's the organizer of AJJ, along with the founder, Rabbi Shmuley Yanklowitz. They were really instrumental in helping me become the leader that I wanted to be, so they just taught me the tools that I needed to get to that point, and then I started going out to the streets more, and I started meeting people, and Eddie and I started bringing out care packs and masks or whatever, and it just blew up from there, and it kind of clicked, at some point where I was like, okay, we can really do something huge here. We just have to bring the community together, and that's what happened, and I think that initially when I started, trying to make these connections with those experiencing homelessness more and more, it was really easy because I struggle with a lot of mental health issues, and a lot of people that I was meeting were expressing the same things, that they were dealing with similar issues, mentally, and we just kind of connected there, became friends, and at the end of the day, these people are family to me. So we hold weekly events every week. I give every person I meet my number, and I answer calls and go out, whenever someone needs a hug or a ride or just someone to talk to, maybe some food, whatever it is, go to rehab, all the various aspects. So, it's all about the love. We just try to be friends to each person one at a time, one situation at a time, and just show people that they're not alone, that they're cared for, respected, and that it's gonna be all right. So, I started writing poems about my work on the streets probably about a year or two ago, probably 2 years, and that turned into a jazz poetry album with musician Joe Alley called Street Sorrows, and it was this really cool collaboration, and I was really, with that project, I was really hoping that we could make something that was easily digestible, through sound, but made people think more critically about, the homelessness situation around them, because it's everywhere, and it's something that we need to talk about more, I think.
You're Austin Davis.
Yeah, well, I'm graduating this semester, hopefully, if I pass all the classes.
Yeah.
I got a final that I have to do tomorrow, so fingers crossed on that one. But after I graduate, I really want to grow AZ Hugs for the Houseless, and that's my passion, along with writing, and I just want to pursue those to the fullest extent. I want to keep writing books, keep touring, sharing the art, creating. I'm never going to stop writing, but I also never want to stop being there for my friends on the streets, Tempe, Mesa, Phoenix, and then I eventually want to expand, I want to hit more cities. Like when we're going to Flagstaff tonight for the tour, we got the van full of some outreach stuff as well, and in between whatever we're doing, I might go try to find some folks who could use some blankets. It's cold up there, so I'm really excited and hopeful for the future. I don't know what it's going to turn into, but my latest project it's an alien-themed chat book about OCD. So yeah, it's like this, I don't know if you call it a short story, novella, something between there, but the idea is, I don't know, I'm really into aliens and sci-fi and horror and stuff, and I wanted to integrate that with the shittiness of OCD and how scary that is, so I've been trying to bring those together in these poems, and I don't know if it'll turn into anything. I write a lot of poems that don't ever turn into anything, that just get scrapped, and I just write them because I have to, I get maybe that light bulb or whatever it is, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta get this out of me. And sometimes, you just throw it away, or sometimes it just sits on your computer, or sometimes you share it with one person, sometimes you share it with the world, and who knows what that'll become, but yeah, I'm excited to keep writing and touring. I'm really excited for the tour. Tonight is Flagstaff, and then we're going to the Midwest, Cleveland. I'm gonna get to go back to Indiana, which is gonna be really cool. That's where like all my family lives, and I haven't seen them in a really long time, because of the pandemic. So once we get back from that, we're gonna do some shows in Phoenix and Mesa, and I'm gonna teach this class at the Mesa Library for teens about poetry and mental health, and just using poetry as a tool to work through whatever problems you're facing in your life. And yeah, future's hopeful. The first draft is not technical at all, for me at least. Like sometimes I'll write a poem with line breaks, as I'm writing it I'll think, okay, this is going to be a sick line break or whatever, this is going to be a cool stanza. Sometimes I write it as prose, sometimes, often, more so lately than before, I'll just go on walks late at night and I'll have my phone with the recording app, and I'll just like talk into it, and I'll just kind of like ramble, and sometimes, a poem comes out that I don't need to edit, or not condense very much, just kind of like freestyle it. But oftentimes I'll just like talk to myself for like 10 minutes, while I'm looking at trees or, messing with a leaf or something, and then I'll go back and like kind of transcribe it, I guess, and cut it down to its bare bones, and then editing for me is super fun. I really enjoy editing because, I don't know, it feels like a puzzle kind of, like you're trying to get every word to be perfect in your head, whatever that means to you, So, I don't know, there's stages to a poem. The first poem in Lotus and the Apocalypse is called The World Will End Tonight, and it's kind of the intro poem. And that one I really didn't edit at all. I wrote it actually early on in the pandemic when I thought I had contracted COVID because I was really sick, and I was living with my parents and my brother and sister who were younger, and my girlfriend at the time was there, and it was just really scary, and the anxiety was it was giving me panic attacks because we didn't know what would happen if I gave my dad, my parents, my brother and sister COVID, I was like, oh my God, and I was kind of like grappling with the idea of getting someone that you love so much sick or worse unintentionally, and the guilt of that, I guess, and that's kind of how that first poem came about, and there was no editing involved. It was just like one take, I just wrote it down and then went to bed and everything was okay, Top 3 favorite poets. It changes for me year in and year out because, that's what I'm reading, I guess. So this year I really liked Sabrina Benaim. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She had a book called Depression and Other Magic Tricks, and I thought that was really cool. I liked hers a lot. Neil Hilborn just has a special place in my heart for that poem that honestly really inspired me to want to write about my mental health. That was huge for me. Initially, when I was growing up, Billy Collins was kind of a gateway poet, I guess, for me, because some of his works were being taught in class, but it was different from the poets from like the 1860s or whatever, because they were kind of funny, so I was reading him and being like, okay, I can try to be funny. Even though if it doesn't, always come through as funny, I can try to be, and that's okay. Like, poetry doesn't have to be super serious, so it can be whatever you want it to be. Something that I've learned, I guess, over the years, and I'm still super young, 22, is, for me at least, and this definitely doesn't have to apply to everyone, I can't force a poem or a story or a song or whatever. I used to try to write every day. Like, I would be like, okay, this is like a job, and if it's like a job, I gotta treat it like a job and write every day, and that's the only way I'm gonna be a real writer. But I don't do that anymore. Sometimes I don't write for a month, and sometimes I write 5 poems in a day. And it's kind of just, I let it happen, I don't force it. And I don't know if that would help anyone out there. That's just, for me at least, like, you don't have to write every day to be a writer, you can write when you feel inspired, write when you want to, create when you need to, and it's all good.
Can you also give a shout out to the Hugs for the Houseless Sunday event?
Yeah.
I don't think we
Yeah. So every Sunday, AZ Hugs, we host this Sunday feed, and our motto is Sundays are for the family. And we hosted at Tempe Beach Park from 3 to 5 p.m. We usually have about 5 courses of meals, and we went out blankets and all sorts of essential resources, and we just sit and hang out with our neighbors, our friends, our family. That's what it is. It's our family, and we share a meal. And afterwards, after the event ends, that's when I usually take people to rehab or bring people tents or essential items. We have a special request list that we post on the Arizona Jews for Justice website every week. And it's these resources, these items that people have specifically asked for. So I think right now on the list we have like a snare drum, we have a little piano, you know, it's these items that will bring people a little bit of joy, you know, and I found that that is life-saving in itself. Like, I've had people come up to me and like start weeping in my arms after saying like, I was gonna kill myself and I didn't, because I thought of you or your group, and I thought of like, okay, I have a support system, I have a friend, I have a family, you know, and that's our goal, you know, it's just to show people that they're loved and respected, and you know, they got people on their side, they got a family, you know. Like for me, I have to always self-monitor, you know. I will go really hard into whatever I'm focusing on at the moment. If that's writing a book, like if I don't stop myself or whatever, I will just, the only thing I will do is write, you know. And if I'm in the zone of outreach, you know, and I'm feeling so passionate that everything else kind of just fades away, I'll be out all night, you know, I'll be answering calls at 4 a.m., I'll be not sleeping, whatever, you know. And if I, you know, start smoking too much, drinking too much, whatever, I get too far into that, you know. So for me, it's all about self-monitoring, you know. And there are other parts of life that are beautiful, you know, like helping people is beautiful and making art is beautiful, but you know, spending time with your family is beautiful and your friends beautiful, you know, and spending time with yourself is very needed. That's something that I think I have been working on the last couple of years, is giving myself time to take care of myself, you know, because I tried to never sacrifice the attention and care that I wanted to give to the people that I loved, and I don't think I ever did, but I definitely did sacrifice taking care of myself, you know, and time, you know, alone time, self-care and all that. So that's another component of life that I'm just trying to work on, you know, and I think I'm figuring it out piece by piece, you know. Lotus and the Apocalypse is available now, and you can buy it on the Outcast Press website. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, hopefully some indie bookstores in the coming weeks. My Twitter is Austin_Davis17, and my Instagram is at AustinWDavis1. So, yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the book. I hope that it can help you in whatever you're going through, you know, and thank you all for having me, and thank you to everyone who's read and supported my work, you know. It's all love.